Hello everyone. Today we'll continue with the explanation of the Microsoft AZ204 exam question bank. Next, let's look at question 21. Starting from question 21, we'll encounter some special types of questions. Previously, we mainly had multiple choice questions, right? There were also true, false questions, single choice, and multiple choice questions. But question 21 is a drag and drop question. For drag and drop question, you simply drag the correct answers from the left to the right. Now, for this question, the requirement is for us to use a downloaded template to deploy dynamic virtual machines. We need to adjust the admin password based on the current virtual machine. And the main requirement is to ensure that the password is not stored in plain text. Secondly, we must prepare and create the necessary components to achieve the goal. Ultimately, the question is asking us which components need to be created. Then, drag the correct options into the answer area. These are the main points. Let's take a look at. The next page shows the components. These are the ones. Here, this is the question for us. On the left are the options, and on the right is the answer area. So what do we need to do here? We need to drag the correct options from the left side to the right side. So, for example, what should we choose for this question? What should we select? Well, the first thing is our K value, K wilt. That is our first one. What do we need to do with this option? Well, during the exam, you just need to drag this image, drag it to the right into the answer area, and that's it. This is the first one. This one is used for securely storing passwords, keys, and other sensitive information. Now, as for the other one, the access policy, let's look for it below. Here it is. So what do we need to do with this option? Again, just drag it to the right. That's all you need to do. Just drag the correct option to the right. That's how we handle this drag and drop question. Now, the second one is our access policy. The access policy is used to control our access permissions and ensure that only authorized users are allowed. The service can obtain the password. That's the main point of this question. So what should you pay attention to during the exam? The key thing is, after you drag and drop, you must make sure that the option has actually been moved over before you proceed to the next question. Be sure to confirm that it has been dragged over. Also, please note that these drag and drop questions are usually multiple choice. Most of the time, they are multiple choice. So make sure you review all the options before moving on to the next question. Okay, that covers the content of question 21. All right, next, let's look at question 22. Question 22 is also a drag and drop question. In this one, we are required to create a DB account that uses the API. Every day, a web application will add data to this account. That's the main point of this question. The requirements are, first, to send an email notification when we receive device data. Second, to reduce computing costs. So the question is, how should we configure this function app? You need to drag and drop the correct options. Here are the options. Let's take a look. Here, what do we need to select? We need to choose a consumption plan. And a binding for our Sandgirl. So here, what we select is this one. Drag the plan. The consumption plan. The consumption plan charges based on actual execution time with no idle costs. This mainly meets our requirement to reduce costs. So we choose this one. The other one is this one here. Here, right here. Now, this is our binding. So here, as you can see, this is our normal setup, the one we typically use. After integrating email sending, it is triggered by our DB trigger. It listens for data changes and automatically sends out notification emails when necessary. Therefore, specifically, what we need in this context is a consumption plan and a binding. So this is our question 22. Next, the following question is another special one. It's a hotspot question. It's a bit different from the drag and drop question. For drag and drop questions, you drag the answer from the left to the right. But for this hotspot question, you just need to click. Just click once. Yes, just a single click. The requirement for this question is that we have an 8 tenant, and we need to implement multi-factor authentication through a conditional access policy. The policy should apply to all users when they access our portal. The question here is asking for which configurations? Then, in the answer area, how do we select the corresponding options? We click on the right side. For this question, you just need to select the correct option and click it. Yes, just click it. There's no dragging or any other selection method, just a single click. For this question, the first thing we need to select is users and groups. So you click here at this position, users and groups. Just click it. That's all you need to do. Just click once. Next, the second one is our cloud application. Again, just click it. Yeah, just a single click would do. Then The third one is our authorization, just click here. This is a bit different from the drag and drop question. For drag and drop, you drag from the left to the right. But for hotspot questions, you just click on the correct option. And that's it. Here the application used to select, well, this one of ours. It's used to perform some of these management tasks. And then authorization mainly requires our MFA, which is our authentication. So for this question, you need to select user and group, application, and authorization total of 3. Now, let's move on to question 23. Question 24 is also a hot topic. This question is about developing a web application for a company that needs to run more frequently. The requirement is that when the CPU usage of the web application exceeds 85% within 5 minutes, a notification should be triggered, and the cost needs to be specified in detail. Whenever you see a requirement like this, where there are multiple options, it is definitely a multiple choice question, definitely multiple choice. This is also a hot topic, another hot question. So which options do we need to select? First of all, you must select 2 options, here definitely 2. There isn't a third indicator. Why? Because here, it's a drop-down box where you can add options. You can only select 1 from a drop-down box. So my question requires you to select 2. The first one is ours. Here. The window size. It specifies that the monitoring time window is 5 minutes. This is the first point essentially. It means monitoring. After 5 minutes, if your average CPU usage exceeds 85%, a notification will be triggered. Pay attention to this. Our usage rate is calculated based on the average, not the current value, maximum, minimum, or anything like that. So which one should we choose? We choose the average value. We need to select the average value. That is, if the average value within 5 minutes exceeds 50%, an alert will be triggered. This is our question 24. Please note that for this question, you need to select from a drop-down menu. After you click here, there will be 3 options. So it's basically a multiple choice question with 3 options. It's a choose 1 out of 3 type of question. For drag and drop and hotspot questions, please pay attention. For drag and drop questions, you need to drag the answer from the left to the final result area on the right. For hotspot questions, you just need to simply click, and that's it. So for this question, what do you need to click? You just need to click on our specific answer here, right? Just select all 3 of these answers and that's enough. You need to respond according to the specific situation, as different hotspot questions may require you to click on different things. For this question, since it's a drop-down box, you just need to choose 1 out of 3 options. All right, next, let's look at question 25. Question 25 is as follows. After developing a public-facing API solution, the backend is hosted in our app service, and a RESTful service has been implemented. The requirement here is to configure backend authentication for our API management service instance. The specific solution is to configure gateway credentials with a client certificate for our HTTPS endpoint. The question here is whether this solution meets the objective. In other words, can our HTTPS endpoint be configured in this way, and does it fulfill our requirements? The answer is yes, it can. In this case, our API management service can do this. It does support authenticating the backend service using client certificates, verifying the identity of the backend service to ensure secure communication. This meets the requirements for backend authentication, especially for our HTTPS endpoint. So the answer to this question is yes. So this is actually a standard true or false question. In fact, true or false questions are basically a type of multiple choice question, just that they're single choice. What you really need to pay attention to in the overall set of questions are the drag and drop questions and our hotspot question. These 2 types are different. Drag and drop involves moving items from left to right, while hotspot questions require you to click. For the clickable content, each question might be different, so make sure to remember that clearly. Alright, these are some of the more unique question types. Today, we encountered both kinds. Okay, if you need the complete question bank, you can leave a comment below and get the most reliable question bank at the best price. That's all for today. Goodbye, everyone.